No, we're not climbing mountains, and we're not off at the Minnie Mouse exhibit in the mall. There's 34 days till elections, and I'm sitting here with Jonny Cline, who is a current member of the City Council for Habait HaYehudi, and the only Anglo to be sitting around the table.
That's right.
Jonny,
yes.
Tell me, 34 days to go. What are we up to?
What are we up to? Well, it's exciting. Everybody's campaign posters are up, everybody's street posters are up, everything, signs on houses.
I saw you with your boxing gloves.
My boxing gloves? Oh, fighter.
For your fighters.
It's going to take me years to live that one down. So, yeah, things are happening. There are meetings in different people's houses every day of the week, pretty much. If anybody wants to have a parlor meeting at their house, if they would like to have a group of people to ask questions, get together, please let us know. Dates are running out, times are running out, but it's still possible.
All right, when I was driving to come see you,
Yeah.
I saw you coming down the stairs of the area.
You're spying on me?
That was me. Oh. What happened today? What was the big day at day 34?
So today and tomorrow are actually the final dates for each of the lists to hand in their final papers with the lists of contenders, the list of candidates.
And by our Habait HaYehudi.
Habait HaYehudi, we handed in our list, but we got a very good grade. Everybody's given a grade by how many mistakes they made on the page. We did very, very well. We were only missing 1, 2 Dadzut of someone on number 17. We handed in our list of 19 people, 19 of which were approved, and we have our list. Our list is now on public record.
All right, so if you are planning on running for mayor, you have until tomorrow?
If you're planning on running for mayor, you have until tomorrow. If you're planning on running another list, you have until tomorrow.
Okay. Can you please clear this up for me?
Yeah.
We're voting for a mayor. We're a little bit confused. Could you tell us a little bit about what we're voting for?
Okay, so these are municipal elections.
One second.
Yeah.
If you guys have a question for Jonny, different from mine, comment below and we'll try to get to your question. Okay, go back. What are we voting for?
Okay, so municipal elections. Municipal elections happen once every 5 years. It's not like national elections that you're dependent upon a coalition staying together or changing. Once every 5 years, you have elections. On that election day, there are 2 ballots cast in each municipal authority. One for the head of the council, in our case, because we're a city, it's for the mayor of Modi'in, מכבים, Ra'ut, and the other for a party. And according to the Israeli system of proportional representation, the parties receive a number of seats around the table according to the proportion of the votes that they received in the ballot box. So it's very important. Let's steal the mayor's campaign slogan. It's very important to do gam v'gam, to vote both for mayor and for council, and of course for Habait HaYehudi to be the ticket that you put in. Tet bet tov is the Habait HaYehudi ticket to put in there for the city council.
Okay, so we're voting for 2 things: the mayor, and for tet bet, or for and for Habait HaYehudi.
That's right.
And for the city council. Okay, could you tell me what's the significance of the people sitting at the table?
Okay, so
why do I have to vote?
The significance is that the democracy is made up by different opinions being brought to the fore, being brought to the table, the sides in any discussion that happens. And at the end of the day, the vote, the average that is taken around the table, the 19 seats that we have in Modi'in, proportional to the population of the city, those 19 seats are the people who raise their hand and vote for each decision, each budget, each building that's to be built, each ganenet who receives a budget for buying materials for her nursery school. All of those things are brought to the table, and hands are raised in support or to ask for changes. Questions are raised to potentially change laws, bylaws, and then decisions are made, and city policy takes shape in accordance to that. Where does it come into play? It comes into play, obviously, if the mayor has the largest list or is able to have full power over the council as well because of the proportional representation thing. So he has more or less unlimited power to be able to put through his opinion, his style, however he wants to see things done. But his considerations. With a mayoral list, the chances are that the candidate who is the mayor themselves pretty much writes the policy for the list as well. When you have other lists around the table representing other, whether they be minority or majority opinions, then those opinions are heard, those opinions are taken into account, and there's always the issue of coalition balance and coalition agreements of things that have to happen. We would like there to be more mikvaot, we would like there to be a bigger budget for Jewish culture as opposed to be a certain number of, now where the city centre's being built across the road, it would have been great to have been able to insist that in the heritage centre that was supposed to be there, we stuck to the original plan and kept a shul, a city shul, a municipal shul in the city centre, rather than having not had that power and having the mayor being able to take that off the table. The heritage centre will not have.
Do we have a municipal synagogue?
There is no municipal synagogue. There is no synagogue. All of the synagogues in the city are run by amutot. Not a single shul belongs to the city. There was supposed to be. So we're building this
heritage center, and we're not even going to be able.
No shul. No shul. In the original city plans that were supposed to be in the center of town, there was supposed to be a central shul, which would be the chief rabbi's shul.
And this was about votes at the table.
This was pretty much about votes at the table. Yeah. The budget's the same budget. Everything else is the same. But you know what? That was one of the few things that we, the mayor and myself, for example, actually had quite a large exchange of words over.
I was going to say that. You know, I think all of us would agree we live in a really great city.
And
Modi'in is great. And kind of it's like, why should I, if everything went the last 5 years, that's going to be the next 5 years. Right. Isn't that enough? But it sounds like, you know.
Enough. What's good enough? Also, let's take into account that the mayor is, I've worked for and seen and met many, many mayors around the country through work and through my own public posts. And I can tell you that we have one of the best mayors to work with and the best mayors to work for. But having said that, he's not going to stay here forever. He's somebody who has his own vision, his own will to move forward. And when the right time comes, he will probably roll off up the hill, which leaves us then with the question, who'll be the next mayor? The next mayor, by the way, if the current mayor chooses to leave the city within the next 5 years before the next election, then the role of mayor, who will replace him, is chosen from amongst the people who sit around the table by the people who sit around the table. Which means, if during the next 5 years, Chaim Bibas decides to go off to national politics, then one of those 19 people sitting around the table, or probably 18 people who are left sitting around the table, will be the next mayor until the next election. And that person will be chosen by the other people sitting around the table. The contenders for that position are obviously more or less relevant and more or less likely to receive that position according to the relevant size, the relative size of the parties that are sitting around the table, the relative number of seats. If the Habait HaYehudi has 4 seats around the table, then we will have more than 20% of the vote when it comes to that.
So it's really important on October 30th.
Really
oh, this is not an election like ever before. October 30th is going to depend the next year. You're saying it could even be, there's going to be decisions made that are going to affect.
There are decisions that are made that are taken by the weighting of the people around the table, and those are sometimes critical decisions for the future of the city, the neighborhoods, however micro or macro you wish your decision making or your issues to be taken, those decisions are taken by those people. So if you want to be represented, you need to ask for that representation, and the way to ask for that representation is by putting that ticket in the box on election day. The mayor has to think about the macro vision for the whole city. Each party, there are some parties who they see themselves as more, because sometimes the parties who actually have a vision to become, for the head of the party to become mayor, they'd like to be seen as more there for everybody. They take a power view of everything. There are very few people who are actually there to state a position, to say this is the people who elected me, these are the people whose vision I'm there to see promoted and advanced. That's why the last time there was a vote about Shabbat, there were only 2 people who voted against the decision. 2 members of the coalition. Myself, I was the only member of the coalition who voted against the decision to open shops on Shabbat, because as far as I'm concerned, the people who elected me, the people who are voting for the Habait HaYehudi, are the people who would like to see that vote cast in that way.
So it's not Jonny Cline what you think.
No, not at all.
And it's not about what you want for every single person in Modein. It's what the Habait HaYehudi voters.
It's that voice has to be heard around the table. Even if at the end of the day there are 19 seats, it's fairly obvious what decision was going to be taken on that issue. Would you like it to be said all votes were cast to open shops on Shabbat? Or you know what, there was a voice of dissent, even within the coalition, there was a voice of dissent that said, wait a minute, we have a principle, it's black and white.
Right.
That voice had to be heard. And that was our voice to make heard.
On behalf of Bayit HaYehudi and the people of Modi'in, thank you, because like we said, 1 out of 19, but you said there were some people who abstained. I don't have to get into the abstain, but Jonny, I really appreciate you speaking with us. I see Jamie's there. Jamie, do you have any questions for us? What I would like to ask Jonny is that it's awesome speaking with you, and I've gotten to know you over the last couple of weeks. Is that how long we're friends?
Couple of months.
Months. We've been working this for 10 years.
6 months.
6 months.
Since your issue with the car park and the...
Oh, Jonny, at Jonny Cline. Anyone who has any issues can just write what's the A thing called? Can write at Jonny Cline, and he comes and he puts up the fence itself. Jonny was responsible for the fence at Moriah Center. A little controversial, so we won't get into that now, but it is a safe fence now, and it's the streets of Modi'in are safe. I put on my
Bob the Builder hat. And yeah, absolutely.
We have a question here. Hi, David. How are you? Chag Sameach. That's David. That's a really, Rabbi Fine. Thank you for bringing that up, and that is a great question. A secular person hearing this interview is going to say, why would I vote Bayit HaYehudi? So can you tell me a little bit?
First of all, the whole division between religious, secular, Orthodox, it's all, the Lubavitcher Rebbe was asked the question once, and the lady who asked the question said something about Orthodox Jewry, and the Rebbe turned around and he said there are Jews and there are non-Jews, but anybody who's a Jew, there's no reason to create more divisions within us. We are one people and we have a common basis and a common goal. Somebody who's living here is obviously living here. They are a Zionist, and they are, however much it might be funny to think about it, we're all pioneers because we're living across the street from my own house is where they're building the city center. I've had nothing but dust coming in for the last 7 years. We're all here seeing a city in Israel being built around us. This is incredible. This is the Zionist dream happening around us. So why would a secular person want to vote Bayit HaYehudi? Because that secular person is a secular Jew, and that Jew has the same books and the same basis and the same common history and the same stories and the same principles. And those principles, whether they would practice more, would practice differently, that person might well want to see that voice heard around the table, even if it's the voice that they themselves might not, but traditionally they can't bear, or they can't have it said in their name for somebody to go so against some of the things that we have as our common history and common culture.
I really was the Sar when we had a program, and he came, and Naftali Bennett said, I just thought, he's like, the Tanakh does not belong to the Orthodox. And I just keep reverberating in my head that statement. The Tanakh belongs to, really all people, and the Jewish people. That's and right. Shabbat is a Jewish idea, and it's our culture, and it's what we stand for. And we don't really want to be every other city.
Well, we don't want to be every other city,
or
but
every
even
other country.
The issues of Shabbat and opening things, closing things. When that conversation was going on, myself and the mayor, we were actually, I brought to his attention the blue laws in other countries. Were they 100 years ago based on religion and having a day of rest? Perhaps, but whether it's the day of rest for religious reasons, be it Shabbat, be it Sunday, be it whatever, or whether it's a weekend, it's a 2-day weekend that many, growing up in England, we had a 2-day weekend. Something opening on a Sunday was unheard of. Something opening on a Saturday, yes, but for limited hours. To bring the concept of blue laws over to Israel without the concept of religion and Shabbat is something that's foreign. Because the issue has been based on Shabbat, do I, don't I, for, against, they're for my freedom, they're against my freedom, it's already taken out of the context of what makes sense. The human body needs a rest. The human mind needs a rest. The fact that I turn my phone off, I'd like to say early on a Friday afternoon, but let's be honest, those 18 minutes are a godsend.
Sometimes they're needed.
But to turn my phone off on a Friday afternoon and to not turn it back on again until Motzei Shabbat, that's the mental reset that I need. Other countries have seen that for social reasons. Israel, it's unfortunate that the conversation happens to be taken from within religion, but you know what, if that's the framework that somebody else is setting up, then somebody has to me it's just the voice of reason, that again, to use that same reasoning of halakha, Judaism, tradition, whatever, to counter that the ultimate freedom doesn't mean the ultimate slavery to be at work every day. It's a voice
Jonny,
that has to be heard.
Actually a very interesting question that came on, and Amatya, thank you so much. Do you know Amatya? Is
I
that
do,
your friend?
Of course. Amatya's a great guy.
Oh, okay.
Amatya is a journalist. Friendship doesn't come into it.
Oh, Amatya, when are we sitting down? We have a third seat here for you. You say we are one people, and then you say we have to bring the Dutzy voice to the table.
Right.
So that's how do you want to address that?
I would address that just by saying that even around this very table that we're sitting at, there's myself, my wife, and 4 children. Each one has an opinion. Some are very opinionated.
Oh, it's like my house.
Yeah, it's the price of having. You have 2 red-headed children. You have 4 opinions
Right.
just within them. Everybody has a voice, and the fact is that we can make decisions. If the decisions are all made by Ima and Abba, then the decisions aren't necessarily going to reflect the wishes of the children, or even take into consideration the things that they would like to bring to the table. I think that if something is not brought to the table, it can never be considered. If it's brought to the table, it doesn't necessarily have to be the winning voice, but it's heard. I think that's important.
I think also what we were discussing this morning, I was invited for coffee, or should I say I walked in.
I apologize. Amati has not been a journalist for years. I'm sorry.
This idea of what Beit HaYehudi stands for is Yahadut, is Tzionut, and
Right.
those are not just Dati ideas.
No.
And those are all of our ideas.
It's called a Habait HaYehudi. It's not called a Habait HaDati.
Right, it's not a Beit HaYehudi, it's not a Beit HaDati. And that's why thank you for joining in, Amati. I don't know if he's your personal friend and he's a ringer.
It's my friend from Shul.
He's your friend from Shul. But Johnny, I know many people, because they're hiking on mountains or they're with their children now, like, we're going to be in 5 minutes, we're coming home, but people have questions. I want to go back on live with you.
Sure.
We're going to find time to go live once so we
Absolutely.
can catch up on elections, and we didn't even start talking about voter cards and Tudat Zahud and what we bring to elections and the times, but there are Chugei Bayit, and
Right. So there are Chugei Bayit. Chug Bayit has traditionally in Israel been a great way to bring people together to ask questions. There've been Chugei Bayit where we've sat there and felt a little bit uneasy sometimes with the need to be faced with very, very open conversations and very, very cutting questions. But that's great, because that way you actually get to test the issues, think through the issues, and come out with something that also we're learning. We're learning what people expect and what people appreciate. Those are the voices at the end of the day that we have to reflect around the table. There are Chugei Bayit. There's a whole calendar of Chugei Bayit, but there is still room. Each one of us has we don't all have to be in the same place at the same time. Anybody who wants a Chug Bayit.
yeah. And I'm really liking this idea, Johnny, and thanks to our people that are participating. Our Chug
For
Bayit
sure.
could be here and we could, have voices on, because I have to be honest, I didn't know so much about elections before. And when I'm seeing here, and when I call you and say, hey, can you meet us 9:30 on a Motzei Shabbat, when I call you at 9:15 and you come.
Yeah, I'm there.
And it's this collaborative process.
For sure.
And we had with the teenagers.
For
and
sure.
it's about every
I think the
person in
important
Modzian.
thing is that, this is the same in national elections, not just in national politics and not just local politics. Democracy representation is about knowing what has to be represented. It's an ongoing conversation. The parties, the so-called leaders who start a conversation once every 5 years because that's the only time they want something from you, so they're going to actually listen to what you have to say, that's not representation. That's not democracy. Everybody who doesn't have my phone number can get my phone number very easily. Facebook, I'm open to everything. LinkedIn,
24/6.
email, 24/6.
I'm loving this phrase.
24/6.
Everyone's got to have a rest.
Although, Motzei Shabbat, there are things that are there
That's
waiting
true.
for me that are
True.
coming during the time. Anything's available at any time, and that's what this is. It's a conversation. It's a representation. Bezrat Hashem will succeed
And we have
in
more
moving
seats at
forward the
this
same way
table.
have been. There are.
All right, so my kids are going to kill me,
Okay.
as are your kids, because we're asking them to stay up. So I just want to congratulate Amiad and the whole list for registering, and you said we got a really good grade.
We got a great grade.
We did. The fighters were awesome.
We spelled everything right. That's it. All the right photocopies of the right pieces of paper.
Thank God. And Amiad, our leader, was there, and Oga was there. That's why I said I snuck into the post-coffee. But Johnny, I thank you so much for taking the time.
Absolutely.
And we're going to continue the conversation. Please share this video, comment, use our English Facebook page, our Hebrew Facebook page to really get in the conversation. Because what
If
I've
there are
learned
questions,
from you,
ask them. If there are comments, make them. If there are voices to be heard, don't say afterwards, you weren't listening. We're listening. I'm listening.
honestly, with someone like you, Johnny, and / me interviewing you and doing this live, there's really no reason to say, I don't care, because I don't care, like we say with the kids, means I don't know enough. There's no reason for everyone today not to know exactly what's going on.
Sure.
And, you can find out about the other parties, but as we say, Johnny's the only Anglo, so he's able to explain things more. And get involved, and your voice, what's our phrase?
Listen,
Your
vote
voice
counts.
Your vote
yeah,
counts.
make your voice heard, make your vote count. I can tell you from sitting close to the table and being part of the conversations, before being elected, after being elected, there's so much happening. It's a great city. It's a great city that's developing, but the things that you don't see is so much more than the things that you do see. It's really interesting.
Okay, next time.
Uh-huh.
That's my teaser. Next time, I want to hear. We're going to start with that. Oh, we have to dig it in the middle when no
I'll
one knows.
see what I can.
Can you tell us what's the funniest thing that ever happened on the council?
Oh.
But thank you, Jonny. Again, I'm here with Jonny Cline, who is a current. I'm being on the table, and they're going to kill me with the mic. A current member of our Modein City Council and for Habait HaYehudi, and the only Anglo member. So although all of our Hebrew is excellent, I mean my Hebrew is just fabulous.
Yeah,
I can talk to everybody.
Yeah.
But I thank you.
Biblically.
Right, biblically. So we're going to continue the conversation. Comment below, and kids, we're coming. Chag Sameach to you from
Modim l'simcha.
Modim l'simcha.
Bye bye.